Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, in this video, I'm a bit early coming on, which is unusual, isn't it? I'm normally late, but anyway, but as soon as I start a live, the dog starts drinking water. Anyway, yeah, thank you for being here. I've probably caught people out because I was booked to start this a little bit later, but I find myself where I can do it now. So I always have to take, if I can do the live in the moment that I can do it, it's better. And I will be editing this live afterwards just to, for those of you who don't like the waffle. I know not everybody likes the waffle, and I always start with a little bit of waffle. So I will be editing it later and just releasing the interview with Sonia, because what I'm going to be talking about today is the disappearance of this young man, Jack O'Sullivan, who disappeared, can you believe, 2 years ago, nearly 2 years ago now. 2 years, where his family, his mum, his dad, his brother, no answers, no answers, and what seems like they've been let down by the police. The police decided very early on when Jack O'Sullivan disappeared in Bristol after a night out at a party that he had gone into the water. And there is a lot of water round about where he was walking in the early hours of the morning. But Jack's mum doesn't want to believe this, doesn't believe this. She says there's no evidence that he went into the water. When he was last seen, he was nowhere near the water. He was not, and it does happen. Look, we have to face the reality that that's what the police are doing, is they're giving their hypothesis based on what often happens, that when young men go missing near water, they quite often end up in the water. We've seen it happen many times. Especially when they've been drinking. Now, not necessarily because they've intended to go into the water. They maybe been walking by the water, they've had too much to drink, they've stumbled in the water. This is what the police think happened to Jack. Now, that's not to say they didn't look for him. They have looked for him in the beginning. According to Jack's mum, Catherine, though, they weren't very good with the CCTV that they recovered. She recovered CCTV herself. She's been doing her own investigation. And she has now got a private investigator helping out. And it looks like maybe the case will get more attention. Anyway, the reason I'm doing this video, we've done quite a few videos about Jack, but missing persons cases, they do go cold, don't they? Other people go missing, other cases come up. And of course, for Catherine, it's not a case. It is her and her family. This is their loved one. It's not something you can move on to another case. This is their life. This is what they're living day in, day out. The fact that Jack went out to a party and just never came home. And he's had a birthday. In fact, he may have even had 2 birthdays since he went missing 2 years ago. And there's been 2 Christmases that this family have had to go through, not knowing where he is. Has he come to foul play? Did he fall in the water by accident? Is he somewhere? Did he take him off somewhere? Is he, still alive and well? That's your best case scenario, isn't it? That's what Catherine and the family will be hoping for. But really, realistically, I think they know that if Jack could possibly have got in touch with them to let them know he was okay, he would have done by now. So anyway, because it's coming up to the 2 years, and also because hopefully there looks like there may be some signs that the case will be re-looked at, Catherine has done another interview with Sonia Poulton on YouTube, and we have covered interviews that she's done with Sonia before. Sonia's taken a personal interest in this case as a mother. I think at the end of the day, if you're a mother, or even if you're not a mother, but especially if you're a mother, you can't help but sympathise with Catherine. If you've got sons similar age or brothers, you know they go out, you don't know, they say bye and off they go. You don't know where they're going. They're adults, for God's sake. You don't know what they're doing. Are they taking illegal substances? Are they mixing with people that aren't maybe the best people to mix with? Are they going to get into a fight? There's so many different things. Life is scary, isn't it? And once your children get older, you always think it'll be easier when they get older, but of course it's not easier. It's more difficult because then you can't control what they're doing. They've got their own lives to live, their own mistakes to make, and unfortunately, Jack did go out that night and he's just so far has never come home. And this poor family do not even know what's happened to him. So even if it's the worst case scenario, at least once you knew what happened, you'd get some peace, would you? Like some peace that they weren't, just lying out there somewhere. Where is he? Is he still suffering? What is he got amnesia and he doesn't know who he is or what he's doing? Because I bet every day is a different day that with a different, oh, maybe this has happened or maybe that's happened. And anyway, we're going to listen to Catherine being interviewed by Sonia, and she'll tell you the latest developments. Also, the private investigator that is helping out with the case is talking. So we're going to get that information about where we are with this case because I was very touched. You'll see when you watch the interview when Sonia asked, "What can we do?" Just people in general, and she said, "Just keep Jack's name out there. Keep talking about him." She doesn't want it to get to a point where people aren't talking about Jack anymore, and I expect that's the same for all families of missing people. There's so many missing people, aren't they? Anyway, all we can do is, as she says, talk about Jack. Please remember to share this video if you don't mind, because the more people that can hear about Jack, and somebody knows somebody, and now 2 years have passed. Maybe people who didn't want to talk 2 years ago now are prepared to talk. Times change, don't they? And does somebody out there know what's happened to Jack? It's quite a big reward out for information, and we're going to look at that as well. So first of all, though, I just want to say thank you in general for caring about all the people we talk about on my channel. We've been sort of a bit bogged down with the Nancy Guthrie case, of course. That's an ongoing, she's a vulnerable lady missing. So many people that go missing. We can't talk about all of them constantly. But what I'm going to try and do is talk about as many as I can, and certainly cases that we've already covered, keep their names out there, which is why I'm doing this video about Jack. So thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing. Please think about subscribing if you haven't already. It's completely free. Liking the video is free, sharing the video is free. Special thank you to my members. We've got this week on Members Live, which I am going back to Thursday, I think, this week. All right, shall I do Friday? Anyway, I haven't quite decided. Let me know if you're a member. Do you prefer Thursday or Friday? Friday's probably a better day. Better evening for me to do a Members Live. We're going to do some scary stuff this week. I've been watching some sort of scary videos in the sense of like paranormal type things. I frightened myself to death watching them. So I think I'm going to share them with you and the members this Friday, and we'll get scared together. But thank you for being members. Thank you to all of you that bought me Ko-fis. I'm still haven't hit my target for the computer, for the new computer. Trying my very best. Thank you to those of you that have bought Ko-fis, donated in whatever way you've donated. I really appreciate it, and I will get there. What else? Yeah, thank you to those of you who send me emails suggesting cases, interesting cases sometimes that I haven't heard about, or just thank you to for any positive way you contribute to my channel. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. Okay, let me take that banner off. Hello, lovely lurkers. Hope you're all okay. Those of you who like to lurk but don't like to comment. Hello to replay crew. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time to watch me and also to care about these people that we talk about. And now let's see. There's someone's in the chat because I can see that someone's made some comment. Hi, Julie. Yeah, the thing is, exactly, it's the not knowing that is the worst. And yes, they're always very calm and dignified. And Catherine, I literally do not know how she holds herself together because she's not, she says herself in this interview, she's not a person that, she's not an outgoing person who finds it easy to do these interviews. Some people are already sort of social media friendly, aren't they? Some families, and they will employ social media to help find their loved one, and they feel comfortable on social media because maybe they've already got social media presence, or at least sometimes they're already out there. But Catherine wasn't, she's not a social media person. This is all a learning curve for her. I think she understands that social media is needed, to spread the word about her son. Also, she's been trolled terribly, like all these parents and families of victims. What is wrong with these people? And you'll hear in this interview, one person in particular actually sent an email claiming that they had red rummed Jack and went into graphic detail about what they had done to him. And it was, sent that email. And, imagine the family having to read that. Anyway, I think somebody is intercepting their emails now and sort of shielding them from those. And that person has been identified and will be prosecuted, I hope. But what's wrong with you? What's wrong with why do people troll families of victims? I don't understand it. I didn't understand it with Jay Slater or any of the other cases we've covered. There's some nasty, horrible people out there. And they try and do it anonymously as well. They don't come out, if they do it through social media, they'll use, they don't use their own names and, they're not open. They'll use some bloody anonymous photo of a dog or something, or some weird shit that they put on their moniker, their handle, as far as social media is concerned, make their trolley comments. But they're not. You can't tell who they are as real people because they're cowards, because they hide behind false profiles, don't they? And like this person, they're thickos as well, because they really think that you can't be traced, that an email can't be traced by your IP address, or you think you can send an anonymous message or an anonymous email and you can't be traced if you break the law. Just horrible people, sad people too. I mean, they are sad. How sad have you got to be really to troll anybody? Hello, Heath from Tennessee. So, yeah, so for this case, because we've been looking at America, obviously, Nancy Guthrie case. We've been following Gus Lamont over there in Australia, other cases. So we're coming back to the UK for this case. This case happened in Bristol in the UK. It's not that far away from London. It's in the south of the UK. And this boy, as I say, so let's we will hear about Jack in the interview, But just to give you an idea of Jack and the kind of boy he was, or I shouldn't say was, he is, because we don't know that he's not. We don't know that he's no longer with us. You know, I think his mum, she's very conscious of speaking about him in the present tense, because that's, you know, be positive. You have to be positive. After 2 years, unlikely. Believe in 2 years. It's unbelievable. Where's that time gone? I wonder if it's gone quickly or slowly for Catherine, probably a combination of two. So this is Jack. Jack is a law student. Well, I think he just finished, hasn't he? Just graduated. So he's got a promising future ahead of him. You know, just a typical guy in his early 20s going out enjoying himself. And that night, it was a midweek, not a weekend. And he was umming and ahhing whether to go out or not. And his mum, and she feels, can imagine how she feels, she encouraged him to go out. She said, oh, you need to relax, you need to have a good time, go out, enjoy yourself. And this boy never came home. And she was in contact with him by message because she offered to go and pick him up. And he said, no, I'm fine, I'm going to get a taxi. And it seems like he was looking for a taxi. Looked like he, on the CCTV that was seen, maybe he'd had a little bit to drink, of course, because he'd been to a party. But what happened to him? And nothing's ever been found. You know, none of his possessions, none of his clothes. Did he go into the water? If he went into the water, you know, no, he's never been found, and the water has been searched. There have been searches done, and although after 2 years, we've got to be honest, if Jack did go into the water and perished, his clothes, though, would still be recoverable, his phone, etc. Anyway, so we don't know, but we're going to watch this interview with Sonia, and you know, we're going to watch this interview with Sonia Poulton on YouTube. She's got a lot of followers, you know, so we just, and now I know Sonia won't mind me sharing her video, because I've shared her videos before. I've spoken to her by email before, and she's given me permission to share videos to spread the word about Jack, so I know she won't mind. So let me just make sure it is sharing. Hang on. Let's see. So remember to let me know what you think as we go along. This case is very similar. If people that are in America, do you remember the Riley Strain case? It's got similarities with that. You know, a lad that was out with his friends and looked like he'd had quite a bit to drink, or maybe even taken some substances. We really don't know. But, you know, young people, when they go out, they get drunk, or they take substances, or do both. And they do have accidents, and that seems like what happened with Riley Strain, the same, wasn't it? But Riley was eventually found. Maybe Riley was found by somebody who worked near the river. That is what quite often happens, isn't it? You know, water is very reluctant to give up its secrets, isn't it? It's very sad. But anyway, they need some sort of resolution.
That's really important stuff. Catherine has been with us on a number of occasions before to talk about her missing son, Jack O'Sullivan, who went missing in Bristol on the 2nd of March, 2023, I believe it was. He's not been seen since. As I say, Catherine's been with us on a number of occasions. Here she is this morning. Good morning to you, Catherine.
Good morning. Hi.
It's I always, whenever I see you, all I ever want to do is just reach out across the screen and just hug you, give you the biggest hug possible. And it's very painful that you have to keep rocking up here and that we don't have any forward movement. But actually, I think we're getting somewhere. And I want to bring in my next guest, who is Oliver Lawrence. Good morning to you, Oliver. How are you? Curriculum, right? And that's an independent investigators, and now you've got involved in the search for Jack. So first of all, before I come to you, Oliver, Catherine, I just want to do a check on you, how you are. It's 2 years almost now. And how are you feeling? How are you coping?
Well, it's very difficult to put into words, to be honest with you, but
yeah, how can you put it into words? How, every day it must be just a torture. And Catherine, we've seen a few interviews with Catherine. I've actually messaged Catherine before. She's always so gracious. She always just says, "Oh, thank you for getting the word out." She's so polite, so nice, just such a lovely person. This is a nice family, calm, balanced family. Very, Jack, he's not, he wasn't a person who'd ever gone missing before, he's not like a runaway sort of, sometimes young people do run away and don't want to be found. That is not the case with Jack. And that's how Catherine knew. When he did it, he wasn't home when he should have been home. She knew something had happened, and it took her a little while to convince the police. Because, of course, the police just think, oh, young lad out on a night out. But, as a mother, your son or your daughter, or, are they the type of person that would stay out for days and not let you know where they were? Or are they not that sort of person? And Catherine knew from day one something was wrong if Jack didn't come home and didn't let her know he wasn't coming home.
We have to. There's no choice in this. We have to cope. We have to keep going. It's really a horrible place to be. It's the only way I can really describe it is I'm on a roller coaster from hell and I can't get off. It is truly on a daily basis. It's hard to get through a day sometimes, but that's what we have to do. We have to keep going. There's no choice in this matter.
I think you're amazingly strong. You're doing a phenomenal job. And of course, you've got Oliver involved. And this is really some phenomenal stuff. Oliver, I read the report that was compiled by yourself and your colleagues. I thought it was really impressive. It was very in-depth, extensive, but also it's compassionate. It didn't feel like I was reading some clinical document where you were so detached from what you are doing. So tell me, why have you got involved in the search for Jack?
Yeah, good morning, Sonia. Thanks very much indeed for having me. Yeah, we got involved with Catherine, Ellen and Ben at the latter part of last year. We came in to essentially carry out a review of work already carried out to date in relation to Jack.
So, yeah, Alan is Catherine's husband and Ben is Jack's brother, her other son. And Catherine does most of she appears in most of the interviews and things. And, she does come over as being so strong, but, I bet she's crumbling inside. But she's got to be strong. She's got to be strong for the rest of the family as well. And most importantly, she's got to be strong for Jack, because Jack is, one way or another, is out there somewhere. And she wants a resolution to this. I just think it's always so sad, isn't it, when parents or loved ones never get an answer. Let's hope some answer comes. Somebody knows something. Please, please, say what you know, even anonymously. There must be a way you can do it anonymously if you're worried about getting into trouble. If Jack has fallen into foul play and you know something, please, 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 let someone know.
Disappearance on the 2nd of March 2024, with a view to trying to understand what the working hypotheses of the police were within Avon and Somerset Police, and what we felt could be done and where we felt there are opportunities for further lines of inquiry. Investigations of this magnitude are no small feat. And as you say, the report and the review that my colleague Steve Keir and myself completed at the latter part of November last year understood the human element to this. There are three incredibly important people behind that report in Alan, Catherine and Ben, but importantly, the most important one is Jack, and we can't forget that. We've allowed over the months that we've been involved for Avon and Somerset Police to carry out investigations. And it's at this point now, I suppose, if I'm being brutally honest with you, that we're losing faith in that capability. And we've had to take the unprecedented step most recently in reaching out to the College of Policing for their overview, for their review. We are concerned that the investigation has lost its way. We've lost trust and confidence in the senior leadership team at Avon and Somerset Police. And we have asked, and we are lobbying for an independent force to come in and carry out a fresh investigation, not a review of the work already done, but a fresh investigation. Communicating back and forth with Avon and Somerset Police over a number of months, and I believe in recent weeks, in recent days even, I think we're moving to start to finish. But this is an incredibly complex matter. There are a number of moving parts to it, lots of information to be assessed and reviewed as we go forward. And part of our role within our investigative team in terms of
so that's interesting. They're hoping that the investigation will go back to basics. Sometimes you need to do that. Go back to the beginning, fresh eyes. And the thing is, there are so many people go missing. I think it's important not to criticise the police too much in this. I mean, maybe they did make a mess of this investigation from the beginning. But what Catherine and the family are doing, and the private investigator, is exactly what you have to do, unfortunately, to keep the pressure on the police, because there are so many missing people, and then of course they've got other crimes and things. So it's the families that can push the police into doing something, and that sounds like what's happening here.
What with our investigative experience, we may be former police officers. We don't carry warrant cards anymore. We have no greater powers than any other member of the public. But what we do have is a great deal of these answers. We know what questions need to be asked, and we know ultimately what needs to be put together strategically to ensure that we can find a resolution, and importantly, and I must stress importantly, find Jack for Catherine, Alan and Ben.
Absolutely. And Catherine, obviously, I mean, I have people in the comments saying they only need to look at you and they feel like...
Thank you, Heath. Have a good day.
Like crying, because people feel such empathy for your situation, such compassion for what you are enduring. Now, as far as we understood, Jack, your son, 23 years old, and sorry, I got the year, and he went to a house party in Bristol. To our understanding, he'd left that house party, and the police, it would appear, is that Jack went into the water. But you've always said that essentially, until you find out what happened with Jack, you're not just going to accept that, right?
No, absolutely. From where we stand, the decisions have been made by the police on assumptions rather than on factual evidence. There's no evidence to suggest that has happened since that time. All over the country, and what tends to happen very tragically is that these people are found, and that's just not been the case. I've seen what we believe was the last sighting of Jack. He is not on the water's edge, and he is walking away from the water. His messages to me read that his fully intended coming home and getting a taxi home. And I think, as I say, a lot of it's been based on assumptions and the thought process of that say this is what happens to men on nights out when they've been to parties or clubs or things like that. And that's just not what we think.
Oliver, what can you tell me about what happened recently? I understand that somebody had contacted Catherine claiming to have murdered Jack. What happened?
A number of people that come forward making all sorts of claims, either responsibility, either with significant knowledge, and wanting to assist, but leading you down into a myriad of different rabbit warrens and actually not getting any further forward, just becoming a pure distraction. And we had one of those, as you quite rightly pointed out, very recently. An individual within the United Kingdom made an abhorrent claim to Catherine, Alan and Ben via email. And these sort of claims we've received before, but we moved very quickly on them in terms of trying to identify people that feel that they can hide behind a veil of anonymity behind an email account. We were able to identify this individual within 48 hours and have them in police custody. So part of my presence here today is to sort of put people on notice, really, that I certainly, one of my roles is protecting this family's.
Hi, Lily. I was trying to send you a message to say hi, and it keeps throwing me off, this stupid computer. But anyway, hi everybody who's in chat. Please don't be hurt if I don't. Always try and say hello to people in chat, but do you know what? For some reason it keeps throwing my messages off.
Nefarious decision to send such abhorrent, commentary. I will ensure that we do everything we possibly can in our power to hold them to full account. And we did on this occasion. Now, I'm not going to disclose where in the United Kingdom this occurred and what force was responsible for putting this individual into police custody. That investigation is still very much live, so we don't want to jeopardise the consequences of that. But part of our role has been equally to support the family when those sort of requests come in, and we do move very, very quickly. And as I say, although we don't have warrant cards anymore, we have a tenacity and a people to the highest level of account. So I would caution people as their actions. We are very open and encourage people to send us information which they feel may assist us in our inquiry. But when people step over the line, when they're trying to get their own little bit of a thrill, or for whatever reason have a sick fancy.
I mean, it's just, I think Sonia's about to say the same thing. It's absolutely, you just cannot imagine somebody sitting at home and thinking, oh, look how this family's suffering because their son's gone missing. I know, I think I'll send them an email and pretend I've murdered them. That'll be good. What the hell is wrong with these people?
I can't actually get my head around the type of character who would do something like that to a family. I just find it extraordinary. I'm so glad, fantastic, important role. Catherine, oftentimes in situations like this, people look at what was the psychological state of the individual before they went missing. What can you tell us about Jack's psychological state?
What I can say is I his life to date. You know, he was doing incredibly well with his studies and had huge ambitions to be a lawyer, and was making good progress. He didn't.
So now, Catherine, thank you. That's so very kind. Thank you so much. So now Catherine's going to tell us about the circumstances of that night. As I say, this poor woman, so she's going to tell us, you know, he'd been working really hard, Jack, and he had the chance to go out with some new friends, and let's hear what she said.
And he was sort of in a kind of place where he didn't want to stop at that point because he had exams that were coming up, but I persuaded him to go out and have a bit of fun. But he was, yeah, I would definitely say that he was in tremendous form. He left to go out quite excited because there were new people, new friends that he'd only recently made contact with. And he was full of fun. He actually dropped me off when I was going out myself and to just stay, have a bit of fun, and don't drive, get a taxi, or I'll pick you up. So we have no reason at all to believe that he was in any way sort of struggling with.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely, does it? That he, I mean, of course, you do never know. You do never know, but I don't know. You know, just from the sort of lad Jack was, and I know Catherine's his mum, and she's going to say what she's going to say, but you just don't feel like that. I mean, he just graduated. He was looking for work as a lawyer. He had a bright future in front of him. He had no record of depression, from what I've never. You know, there's been normally when you get to your early 20s, maybe there would be some record of depression in his. You know, if you think he had deleted himself, I think this is either going to be foul play or an accident. You know, either he did fall into the water like the police think, because, you know, the police think. To be fair to the police think that because in their experience it happens so often. So, you know, it's the experience of what often happens that leads the police to think a certain way. But of course they have to, you know, they should treat each case individually, really. You can't just think, oh, well, it's a young lad. After a party, he's fallen into the water. Now, maybe that happens to 9 out of 10 young lads that disappear on the way home from a party, but maybe not in this case. For me personally, I do feel that there's a likelihood of foul play in Jack's case. I don't understand why the phone was still working till about 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was pinging in Hot Wells, where the party had been. I think there's something in this party, you know, people he didn't know that well. Did he make his way back to that house? What was he doing? Why was his phone pinging in Hot Wells at 6 o'clock in the morning? You know, but there's no CCTV of him there, or, you know, not that's been found anyway. So there is CCTV of him wandering around the Bristol centre, isn't it? Town centre at night. And there are a few cars on the road and things. What happened to him in between? Oh, so, and just to remind you, something else that happened while he was wandering around looking for a taxi or whatever he was doing, he tried to phone someone at the party who didn't pick up, didn't hear the phone. And when that person tried to phone Jack back, Jack answered the phone, or somebody answered the phone and said hello, and then the phone cut off. So what was that about? Why did the phone cut off? Was he running out of battery? Was that the moment somebody snatched his phone, somebody attacked him? You know, when he were, so there are mysterious things in this case, not just a young lad trying to walk home near water and falling into the water. His phone was still pinging until about 6 o'clock in the morning in the Hot Wells area, which is where the party had been. And also that phone call that his friend made to him, he apparently said hello, and then the phone cut off. Why did it cut off? So, you know, I think in this particular case, there is reason to think there may have been foul play.
Not at all. Absolutely not.
And mother to mother, I've done the same thing. Encourage my daughter, go out, enjoy yourself. You're young. I want you to enjoy yourself. But those are the last words that, in some respect, that are with you, and very difficult because you just did what any parent would do. That is the reality.
Yeah.
Know?
I mean, I'm tormented by this. This was, you know, the way I have to go through the rest of my time thinking, what if only. We were in text communication up until nearly 2 o'clock in the morning. And Jack was very insistent that he would make his own way home because he a very independent person, and just said, you don't need to wait up, you don't need to come back out. I'm fine, and I'll just, he was having a good time. But it was, the last message said, all good, I'm taking a cab, see you in the morning.
Strange, isn't it? And he sounds such a considerate boy. He didn't want to make his mum come out to get him. As she says, I can imagine she'll be tortured by that now, very sadly. The work, every day she'll be thinking, well, first of all, I should have just gone and got him. And then she'd probably be thinking, I shouldn't have encouraged him to go out. But of course, it's not her fault, is it? But, no matter how much you knew that in your logical sense, you would talk to yourself. And I've got to say, my son, he would have, well, he was the opposite when he was that age that Jack was, and he was going out. Be the opposite for me. It'd be the phone call, come and get me, please. So, and I've gone and got him in the middle of the night many times, 4 o'clock in the morning. And like most mothers, you go and do it. Parents in general, you go and do it. You don't enjoy it. But you know what? I'd rather go and get him and know that he's got home safely. And that I'm sure Catherine would have done exactly that. But Jack, he was trying to be independent, not wanting to, it just shows you what a thoughtful boy he was or is. He didn't want to put her to that trouble. Oh, it's okay, I'll get a taxi. I think that's just part and parcel of what a nice person Jack is. And I know it's hard for Catherine, but she shouldn't feel guilty, should she? But I can imagine exactly how she would be feeling. Well, not exactly, but I could imagine that you would feel guilty. And it'd be like, if only I would have done this, isn't it? You'd be going through all the scenarios, but you know what? Can't be changed now, can it? The important thing now is that she gets her answers as to what has happened to Jack. What happened to him? Instead of, and then she can focus on that instead of focusing on, feeling bad about encouraging him to go out or not going to pick him up, because he told her not to pick him up. She couldn't have done any different, really.
So, yeah, it's very difficult to go over and over that.
Yes, but there's loads of support in the chat for you. As parents, completely understand the sentiment. Lenticular says, yes, I'd have done the same. Catherine. Lucy says, don't pity, right? So we're all kind of extending our love to you, Catherine, because we all hate seeing you go through this. Yes, it's a horror story, Soul Sound. It shouldn't be happening. But people are very impressed with Oliver's determination, which is absolutely wonderful. Let me just read you some of these comments, which is, it's always great. Oliver, sterling support. And I get a very determined vibe from Oliver, says Mel's. Me too. And the last time that Catherine was on, I had a lot of people who had approached me and said, is there any way that we can actually financially support this? Well, now there is, actually. Oliver, tell us, how can we financially?
I wanted to highlight, so previously the family had raised some funds to support with the early investigative and exploratory work that had been carried out. So in terms of service for last year, in our view, any investigation develops a working hypothesis around what may have been a scenario in which led to Jack's disappearance. As Catherine has pointed out, there is nothing to indicate that there was mental health issues or for him just disappearing. He was in a great time of his life, a young, aspiring lawyer, spending time with friends. So there are a number of other working hypotheses that we've got to develop. And as an investigative team, what I'm proposing to do is to put together a very comprehensive team of senior investigators, ex-senior policing professionals, who will now lead and champion this investigation and review document that we've put together. This is an unprecedented step. You would expect that policing would come to the fore and would lead the charge on these investigations. But we've come to a moment in this matter where myself, as a senior investigative advisor to the family, have to make a conscious decision of not only protecting them, but moving this forward in a direction which provides them with answers and ultimately conclusion as to sort of what has happened to Jack and ultimately to locate him. So we are launching which will involve further friend work, further targeted searches, further independent interviewing of significant witnesses, not only locally in Bristol, but across the country, who would have had involvement with Jack during that period. So there's lots to be done. I suppose we're seeking the public's assistance. Worry about the financial implications of this work. I just want them to worry about their own health and well-being, whilst I take hopefully the stress away from that part of it and lead the charge on that. Equally supporting the family in other areas, as I've pointed out, with some of these nefarious characters who make the erroneous decision to communicate with them with yucky information. We'll do all those things as we have done previously, but we want to move forward with this at pace, professionally, with a high sense of discipline. So yeah, there is a GoFundMe we've launched today. So we would encourage anybody who can share just a pound or a couple of quid to
and new GoFundMe. So they had a GoFundMe before. I think it was about 30,000, and of course we're 2 years on now. So this is the new one. They've got GoFundMe of 13,000. Let me share it. Now, don't forget, there is a £100,000 reward for, information leading to finding Jacko. There's so many GoFundMes and things like that, but you know what? Even £1, gosh, somebody's contributed £500 there. That's a lot of money, isn't it? But you mustn't feel that you need to donate massive amounts. Even £1, if everybody, all of the people that follow Catherine on the Find Jack Facebook page, I think there's thousands of people do. £1, a little bit, £2 or whatever. I think you can donate whatever you like, because little amounts add up to big amounts, and whenever you're donating to anybody, like be it like as Westside just donated to me, or your favorite YouTuber, or be a GoFundMe or a charity or a dog charity or whatever charity, you must never think, oh gosh, it's not much. Every little bit counts. Every single little bit counts. And generosity, be it like if you've got £500 to spare, well, great, give the Alistair. Everybody's got different income, haven't they? Different circumstances. So, generosity one way or another, it's supposedly, never underestimate, never think you have to give massive amounts or it doesn't count. It does count. Everyone is just as important as the other. So yeah, missing since the 2nd of March. So we're not far off that anniversary, sadly. He was 22 when he went missing. He's now 24. And he's frozen in time. Always what gets me about these missing people, which really upsets me, is they're frozen, aren't they, in time? There's no more photos coming of Jack unless he's found alive. And I don't know if you watched the video that I showed of Gus Lamont, the little boy in Australia, the 4-year-old that's probably been killed by his grandparents. His parents have just released that heart-wrenching video of him riding his own. I'm going to cry now thinking about it. You just... all these missing people, I've forgotten why I was talking about now, but Jack's such a young, handsome lad on the threshold of his life. I mean, Gus, just a little 4-year-old toddler. What happened to him? He's not had any life. Jack's now on the threshold of his life, and yeah, there he is. How is he going to be able to continue his life? Is he going to be able to continue where he left off? And if not, but are his family going to find out what's happened to him? That is so important, isn't it? So it says this GoFundMe is being monitored, managed and overseen by Curriculum Advisors Limited, part of the Curriculum Security Group, who are supporting the O'Sullivan family. Oliver Lawrence, CEO, acts as lead advisor to the family. All funds are administered on behalf of the family and are used solely to support investigative, search and specialist work connected to Jack's disappearance. Any concerns can be directed to us directly via email. And as we share the launch of this renewed GoFundMe appeal to support the search for answers in Jack O'Sullivan's disappearance, we know many people will quite rightly want to understand how funds raised previously were used and how future funds will be managed. Catherine, Alan and Ben O'Sullivan remain deeply grateful for the kindness, compassion and generosity shown to them. Every contribution made during the first appeal helped to move the search for answers forward in meaningful and practical ways. Funds raised previously supported the work of the initial investigations team and enabled large coordinated search efforts involving volunteers and specialist support. They allowed for the development and distribution of posters to keep Jack's face in the public eye and ensure he was not forgotten. And crucially, funding enabled essential forensic examination of items belonging to Jack, along with specialist analysis of data recovered from his phone by an independent technical team. Because, of course, all these things the police should be doing, but unfortunately, Catherine has ended up almost investigating her own son's disappearance. Importantly, the funds also made possible a comprehensive review of all investigative work completed to date. This review was conducted by former homicide investigator Steve Keogh, independently peer-reviewed by former Metropolitan Police Commander Peter Spindler, and presented in full to the family to ensure the findings were objectively assessed. So, while earlier investigative efforts were helpful and contributed valuable information, the review confirmed that not all serious lines of inquiry had been pursued as fully as they could have been. Since then, a new team of highly experienced former policing professionals has worked methodically to examine these areas and continue progressing inquiries. Oliver Lawrence and his team continue this vital work and act as the family's professional advisors and representatives in all dealings with the police and other authorities. This is an environment entirely unfamiliar to Catherine, Alan and Ben, and the team's guidance, professional correspondence and advocacy on their behalf have been invaluable. So because of the support already given, Catherine, Alan and Ben are closer to understanding what happened to Jack. However, the review has confirmed that important questions remain unanswered. Further lines of inquiry can and should be pursued. So funds raised will contribute towards ongoing professional engagement and correspondence with police and relevant authorities, specialist search operations and equipment where required, independent forensic and investigative analysis, expert consultation and case review, public awareness campaigns to generate new information, travel and logistical costs associated with search activity interviews, forensic work, interviewing witnesses who continue to come forward with information, further CCTV review and analysis, legal support and follow-up with local and national police services overseeing this matter. And lead family advisor Oliver Lawrence will continue to provide updates on this page regarding progress and the work being undertaken so supporters can remain informed and reassured that efforts are ongoing. Your support has already made a difference. Your continued compassion, sharing and contributions help keep hope alive and ensure Jack is not forgotten. So there you go. I just wanted to show you that. Let's go back to the interview. Just make sure the interview's back. Yeah.
haven't already put it in the description, I'll put it in immediately after the live stream ends. Catherine, you're doing a number of things. I think you're speaking at a missing persons event, aren't you, shortly? Have I got that right?
Yeah, I've been asked to speak, which it's not my field at all, but missing people have provided a lot of support to my family and myself. At times when we've reached out to the police, for example, and we haven't got that support, missing people have been there in the background, and mad but a live missing persons case to share my experience. So if that can help them in some small way, I'd like to give something back to them by just going through what's happened, what we've had to do, and what we still continue to do. So yes, I'm going to speak. If
I think you'll be a phenomenal and important addition, because there's really nothing like living.
Don't you think like this family must just feel like their whole world has imploded, So there's Catherine ending up doing these talks. Just that, it's not something she ever imagined she was ever going to do. But if it does help another family who's got someone missing, that's to make sure. I do think she's an amazing woman. It's a shame that she's had to sort of find how strong she is in this way, but thank God, she is there to sort of support her own family and now supporting other families too.
Experience in situations like this, as Oliver well knows. Oliver, what can you tell me? You did allude to it. You didn't allude. You mentioned it earlier about the potential of another police force getting involved.
With Avon and Somerset Police and a couple of forces as to their involvement in this matter, carrying out a fresh investigation from start to finish. Those talks have been ongoing. Obviously, the family and ourselves maintain a very well-viewed Facebook page, and often people ask what's going on in the background, and they feel because they haven't received regular updates that there isn't going on. But we've been in regular communications with the authorities over many, many months. Unfortunately, these things don't move quickly. What policing can achieve, we're in an era here where sadly managing expectations of the public when it comes to policing, when you see budget cuts and other issues in terms of staffing challenges, those things shouldn't affect families like Catherine, Alan and Ben, but sadly they do. They have a significant impact. So but that doesn't lead away from what I consider to be quite a disastrous set of conflicting priorities. So what we're hoping in the coming days and weeks is that the College of Policing will hopefully maybe get involved and have some oversight over this particular matter. They're not commissioned to carry out investigations, but they do have a lot of very senior ex-police officers who sit within their advisory board with tremendous experience and expertise who can come in investigations team and what we can do to support the family in taking the investigation forward. So I'm optimistic days that we'll have some significant answers and be able to move forward. But this has taken a while to get us to this point. But as I say today, we've made a conscious decision to move this forward at pace so that we can support Catherine, Alan and Ben through what is an incredibly traumatic period of their lives.
I'm very grateful that you have. Mel said, I'd be happy to donate even a small. Michelle says, I feel for you, Catherine. I have a son the same age. It's just awful. And Lisa says, bless you, Catherine. You're a mum. You all a mum should be doing the very best for your son, Jack, sending so much love. I think it says, I think I just read it wrong, but I think you essentially get the message. We support you around here. We're all hoping for the absolute best outcome for Jack. But of course, Catherine, you just want an answer at this point. I mean, obviously you want Jack returned like any mother would, right? And it's not impossible because, as Oliver said, they're developing all these other potential leads, these hypotheses that they're following. And there are a number of things that could have happened. Jack could have been taken against his will. that is possible. He could have been harmed by somebody, including somebody he knows. And one of the reasons I wanted to tackle the issue of psychological state, and I know that we've discussed it before, but obviously we have new viewers, they haven't necessarily seen you talk to me before, but it's often one that people first of all ask, and I feel it's an obstacle to get out of the way, because as you had told me before, he was entering the best period of his life. Everything was sort of coming together for him. So at this point, really, all of these things ongoing, you're developing the hypothesis, and I mean, I'm not even sure what I'm asking you here really, other than just kind of to tell us, what do you want us to do? Other than donate, what else can we do?
Well, I think from my perspective, it's just keeping Jack's name out there. You know, I'm so appreciative of you covering this morning, because as time's gone on, I was told this, the only thing we can do is to keep talking about him, keep his name in the public eye, and just make sure the public are aware of the situation, because it's got very quiet. Not for us. This is never ever going to go away until we find Jack. But it's become yesterday's news for a lot of people. Yes. And I was just
so that is why I am doing this video as well. And I'm always looking to see if there's any news about Jack, and there hasn't been much. But so it's important. She doesn't want her son to become yesterday's news, because so I'm getting upset again. It doesn't take much, does it? But it's true. This is not just another case for Catherine. This is her son. She's not moving on to another case or talking about something else or what's happening over there. This is her life, her mission, to find out what's happened to her son. Her son went out to a party just like any of our sons could have done, or daughters, or brothers, or sisters, or mothers, or fathers. Went out. There was no reason to think there was anything to say that he would not be coming home and she would never see him again. Or for 2 years, she has not been able to see her son, hug him, celebrate his birthday with him. He lived at home, so imagine that gap at home. It's not even that it hasn't changed their home life because he lived somewhere else. He lived at home, so the whole life has imploded. And she doesn't want Jack, to become yesterday's news, because he's not yesterday's news. He is current news, just like all other missing people, and she's doing exactly the right thing to come. I tell you, if there's anybody out there who has a missing person in their family or whatever, and they don't feel they've got any attention, I mean, my YouTube channel is only a small one, but I will always highlight it. I've highlighted cases that people, chatters, have told me about. Any way I can help in that way, and just share people's names, because you just never know who might be watching. It might be somebody who's never watched my channel before, and they just say, oh, what's this? Bristol, and they live in Bristol, and they think, oh yeah, I remember that. So you just don't know. On the off chance who might be watching, who may have some information that they never even thought was important, or maybe that they know is important, but 2 years have passed now. Maybe they were too scared to mention it before. Things change. So I hope Catherine is lucky with this appeal.
Situation hasn't changed from the 2nd of March 2024. We're still asking this. From my perspective, I just ask everyone to share our appeal, keep Jack's name alive, keep that message out there, and just help us with any information that somebody might be sitting on, some information that they really haven't felt that they've been able to share until now. Well, it's never too late. Just do the right thing.
Sharon says we really do need to get Jack's name and face out wide in the UK. I'm Brighton, I keep looking. B says, how old is Jack? Jack is 25. Is that correct?
He will be 25 at the end of March. So yeah, nearly.
Oh,
And where did he go missing? Bristol Hot Wells, if I remember correctly. Correct, Oliver?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so our investigations have always been centred around Hot Wells and that particular area there where Jack was attending a party around Granby Hill area as well. As you know, there's the Find Jack website is a great location for a resource in terms of wanting to either people to remember particular details. Obviously, kept Jack on missed.
Yeah, in the description box of this video, I'm going to put the Find Jack website and the Find Jack Facebook page and the GoFundMe. So the thing is, the Find Jack website has got all the information about, you know, the timeline, the CCTV footage. It's got the items, you know, details of his clothes he was wearing, the items he had with him. And we have looked at that before, but I'm not going to look at it in this video because it would go on too long. But I'm going to put the links in the bottom, and another time we will look at it again, because somebody might just recognize some of those items.
CCTV that the police didn't pick up on quite alarmingly. So that information is all still available. I want to reassure the public also, and those being your viewers watching today, is that my colleagues and I are what I would call usual private detectives. You know, you get that stereotypical view of someone with a trench coat and binoculars. We are ex-senior police officers, corporate investigators who specialise in this type of work. So I want to reassure people the type of individuals that are overseeing this matter, you know, the skills and the expertise that we have brought to the O'Sullivan family and the support we're providing, I would like to think is second to none. And we are determined, I am particularly determined to support this family until we get a conclusion one way or another in terms of the help and support they need in finding Jack. You know, it's critically important. But as Catherine alluded to, the most important thing that we could ask for people to do is continue to share Jack's name, his photo, his image, and this story, right? This is about Jack. It's not about me. It's not about the media. It's not about the police. It's not about anybody else. It's about one individual and finding out where he is and what we can do to bring him home.
Thank you. Catherine, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I would like to publicly thank Oliver and his team, because they have to my life and to my husband and my elder son's life, just by giving us the belief that we are doing the right thing. You know, at times you think you're going mad because you've put so much trust and faith in the police, and we have been spectacularly let down, in my opinion. And what Oliver has done and his team have, and we must keep going. And their support has been, well, just second to none, really. It's hard to.
Yeah, so I'm so glad, you know, that they've had that support. And you can see that this family is probably a family that does everything by the book. Before this happened, I'm sure they had a lot of respect for the police, etc. So, yeah.
Hard to put into words how grateful we are.
I'm really glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that. That oddly enough comforts me, because I think about you so much, Catherine, you and your family. I really do. So take good care of yourself. Everybody, this is Catherine O'Sullivan and Oliver Lawrence, and we all are.
Okay, so I just wanted to share that with you, and please remember to like and subscribe, and of course press notifications, because then you will get updates on any developments in this case, and I'll see you really soon in the next video, as always. And thank you again, Westside, for the super sticker. Thank you so much. And yeah, till I see you again, may your God go with you. Bye.